Welcome back to the Drew Dillman YouTube channel. We are back in our lab coats and our goggles to do some hardcore science again today. Yeah, that's right. I'm following up on my tire test video from last week, which you could watch up here in one of these corners right now. But I wasn't fully convinced after just one day of testing, so I decided to go out for an entire second day of testing to not only test tires, but to also test another big question that's come up this season in the gravel scene. More data equals more truth. In my first round of testing, I tested the Race King 2.2s versus the Pathfinder 40s versus the RS1 50s on 3 different types of terrain, and it turned out that the Race Kings weren't as fast as what we expected them to be. However, one variable in that test was that those tires were mounted on a wider set of rims, the new Zipp Explore SWs, which could have been playing with the results. And to verify that it wasn't, I wanted to do this test to confirm whether or not wider rims are actually faster or slower. Over the past few years, the trend in gravel tire selection has been going wider and wider and wider. So in theory, a wider rim makes sense because then there will be a more aerodynamic interface between the wide rim and the wide tire. And if something's more aerodynamic, you'd naturally expect it to be faster, right? I don't know. I wanted to find out for myself, which is why I did this testing. And if so, how much faster are we talking about? Are we talking about very marginal, insignificant gains, or are we talking about significant gains? So here's the testing protocol for my second round of testing. 2 tires, 2 rims, 4 different terrains. That means 16 total runs. The 2 tires that I have selected for these tests are the Pathfinder 40s at a 2930 PSI and the Race King 2.2s at a 1516 PSI. Both of those pressures pulled directly from the SILCA calculator. Now, the 2 rims that I'll be testing are the Zipp 303 Firecrest, a standard rim width, versus the Zipp 303 Explore SW, a wide rim width. And the 4 terrain types that we're looking at is paved flat, paved climb, gravel flat, gravel climb. Here are those results. For the paved flat test, the Pathfinder Explorer combo comes out on top with the 257. The Pathfinder 303 combo comes out second. In third, we've got the Race King Explorer with a 301. And in last place, the Race King 303 with a 301 as well. For the paved climb test, you've got the Pathfinder Explorer coming out with a 448 and the Pathfinder 303 also coming out with a 448. In third place, you've got the Race King Explorer with a 452, and then in last place is the Race King 303 with a 453. In the gravel flat test, we start to see the results change. In first place, you've got the Race King 303 combo with a 530. Second place, the Race King Explorer combo, 531. In third place, the Pathfinder Explorer combo with a 533. And in last, the Pathfinder 303 with a 534. And finally, on the gravel climb, you've got the Race King Explorer with a 334, the Race King 303 combo with a 336, the Pathfinder Explorer combo with a 338, and the Pathfinder 303 combo with a 343. And based off of these results, here are my key takeaways for you to remember. Number 1, the tires are more important than the wheels. In every test that I ran, the tires were a bigger factor than the wheels. You see this because no matter what wheel I decide to run, the tires had a bigger impact on time than the wheels did. If the Pathfinders are faster, they'll be faster regardless of what wheel you put them on. And the same goes true for the Race Kings. You can put this tire on the standard width and the wide width and it'll be faster than its counterpart. Meaning you can't put a slow tire on a fast wheel and expect it to make up the gains from being a slower tire. It's going to be more important for you to have tire selection dialed in before you have rim selection dialed in. This is good news if you already own a set of nice standard width race wheels and you've been freaking out about the whole push towards wider rims. I would say that the gains that you get from a wider rim are not significant enough to go out and fork out thousands of dollars to get the new wheels. This is good because you could use that money to buy new tires that are faster, because the cost per speed gain is going to be a lot more beneficial for you to get fast tires before you get fast rims. The second big key takeaway here is that the wider rims did perform better than your standard width rims. Though tires are more important, there are still small gains to be had from using the wider rims. You can see this because in every test that I ran, the Explorer wheels outperformed the 303s slightly in all of the tests except for one, which means there are gains to be had in tire selection, but there are also gains to be had with rim selection. So if you don't own a set of nice race wheels at all, then it might be worth spending the extra $100 or so to get the wider rim if you're going to be primarily racing on gravel. I add that caveat because the wider rims are only compatible with wider tires. I think the minimum tire width for these Zipp 303 Explorer SWs is a 40 mil tire width. So if you're trying to get a race wheel that you can use for both road and gravel, these probably aren't the wheels for you. But if all your racing is gravel, then these might be a good choice. Time for some extrapolation. This is where you take little things and make them sound like huge things. On average, the Explorer wheels performed about 2.5 seconds faster than the standard width rims on a just over 4-minute test. If you extrapolate this out to a 10-hour unbound race, this is the equivalent of a 5.5-minute savings over the course of a 10-hour race. If you do this same extrapolation based off of the results that I got from these tests with the Race Kings, because Unbound is almost 100% gravel, you could say that the Race Kings, when extrapolated, would be a 9-minute savings over the Pathfinder 40s on a 10-hour Unbound race. Don't you just love making huge claims about small findings? Ha! It's great. You may have assumed from my last video that I fall in the gravel tire camp, but that's not true. If you remember from that video, my biggest takeaway from that first video was to remain tire agnostic, meaning be totally open to using any tire, whichever tire is the fastest. In my last video, I poked fun at Dylan Johnson being the leader of the mountain bike tire cult, and he didn't like that I called him the leader of a cult. But in this same episode, he also says that he only has 2 approved tires, and they're both mountain bike tires.
Are you serious, dude? It's one of my 2 approved tires.
And for the record, this is probably exactly what the leader of a cult would say. But I'm gonna make up for it with this statement right here. My third key takeaway is that yes, Dylan, you are right. Mountain bike tires are faster, on gravel. In every single gravel test, both uphill and flat, regardless of wheel choice, the Race Kings outperformed the Pathfinders. So, because the results are big enough and consistent enough, I'm with Dylan on this one. Mountain bike tires are faster on gravel. I think that the reason the Pathfinders may have outperformed the Race Kings in my first test is that I was running the Pathfinders at a slightly lower pressure at 26-ish PSI versus 30 PSI, and that lower pressure might have allowed them to perform a little bit better on gravel, putting them in the same ballpark as the Race Kings. I also think that wind could have been a factor in those first tests. So because I did so many more tests on day 2, I'm a little bit more confident in these results. Now's a good time to mention one of my partners for this season, BIKETIRESDIRECT. You can find all kinds of selections of tires and bike parts on this website. You can use code RADDADDIZZLE at checkout to save 10%, BIKETIRESDIRECT.com. Fourth big key takeaway here, gravel tires are better on pavement. Mountain bike tires on gravel are definitely faster when on dirt, and the same holds true for gravel tires on pavement. Regardless of wheel choice, gravel tires are going to outperform mountain bike tires on pavement. Again, the margins were big enough and consistent enough that I feel confident in making this conclusion. My fifth and final key takeaway from these results are that gravel climbs may be significant. Of all the tests that I ran, I saw the biggest variation in results on the gravel climb test. So this could mean that if a course has a significant amount of gravel climbing, you may want to opt for bigger tires and bigger rims. But this isn't exactly intuitive, because you'd assume that running small tires and smaller rims would help save a lot of weight, which we've been ingrained to think that saving weight on climbs is how you save the most amount of time. I'm not sure exactly why this is, but it could be that the wider tires and wider rims offer such better traction on gravel climbing that the extra traction outweighs the weight savings from smaller tires, smaller rims. So at the end of the day, none of this actually makes tire choice any easier. You still have to do your homework. You need to look at the course. You need to consider what kind of tires you need to run based on how much pavement there is, how much gravel there is, how much climbing there is, how much flat protection you need, what pressure you're gonna run those tires at, and not to mention that I only tested 2 tires in this video, and there's thousands of different tires that you could choose from, complicating the whole mess of things. After all this testing, I think one thing that I'm convinced of is that I don't want to stress so much about tires. So my strategy moving forward is going to have a selection of tires to choose from, and depending on the features of the course, how much pavement, gravel, climbing, all of that, I will select from this smaller selection which tires I will use for those races. I think limiting your options to a few select tires that you rely on and trust is a good decision, because it will eliminate some of the overall stress of choosing a tire, and it probably eliminates the risk that you may select a poor tire that you haven't tested and can't rely on. That's all I've got for this video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to share it with your friends. I'll see you in the next one.